Words that will comfort me, I am. The words that inspire me, I am.
Hello, and welcome to That Oneness Guy Podcast, a podcast covering the many aspects and elements that embody oneness, our inherent eternal truth and birthright, reminding us that we are connected to one and all as individualized expressions of one source. I am your host, Danny Rongo, and yes, I am that oneness guy. As an author, speaker, and singer-songwriter, I continue to share my unique message of oneness. So, let's get right into podcasting.
To words that encourage me, I am.
Hello, my friends in oneness, and thank you for tuning in, and welcome to season 6 of That Oneness Guy podcast. It's so good to be back. And as many of you know, I had to take a hiatus from recording new podcast episodes as my voice literally found its way back from the rigors of throat cancer treatments. I'm currently still in the midst of my healing journey, but my voice is back to a point where I can hold these episodes again. And so I'm so very excited to be hosting this show of mine, That Oneness Guy podcast. Again, I appreciate all your kind words and messages throughout the last couple of months here, actually 6 months here, to be quite honest with you. But this is what I want to do. It gets me back to interviewing some of today's most passionate authors, healers, and messengers. And today, as I initiate season 6, I am thrilled to be highlighting yet another inspiring and most beautiful of minds. I started following the works of a spiritual therapist and the creator of Heal and Shine, Heather Deane, some months ago. And I was not only inspired by her work and message, but mostly by the way in which she conveys her message. Simply said, my friends, this woman here is just a ball of fun. She's lighthearted, and her free spirit is so very attractive to everyone, let alone us here within the realms of spirituality, as I like to say. But on her website, she shares this mantra that I just love so much. It says, start moving towards joyful living today because you deserve it. Your life matters. Your joy matters. You matter. And I also add that it was Heather's customized and recorded hypnosis session for me that literally helped to save my life during the many months of my cancer treatments, which we will discuss shortly. So let me tell you a little about Heather Deane. She's a certified practitioner of RTT. That stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy, hypnotherapy, and Reiki. Now, RTT is a multi-award-winning method developed by world-renowned therapist Maris Peer. It is based on neuroscience and helps rapidly overcome deep-rooted trauma, limiting beliefs, and unfulfilled potential. Heather is also a meditation teacher with free guided meditations in English and French on Insight Timer, which is the world's leading meditation app with a community of over 21 million meditators. Passionate about meditation, mindfulness, and mental health, Heather believes the subconscious mind holds the key that unlocks the door to our healing. Her mission is to empower others to help them on their healing journey because ultimately all healing is self-healing. Now, that sums it up right there. So with that said, my friends in oneness, please say hello to my dear friend and someone I am truly blessed to know, Heather Deane. Hello, my dear.
Hello, Danny. Oh my goodness, that was just the most incredible introduction. I'm almost speechless.
I think I nailed it, right?
That was so wonderful. Thank you. I don't even have the words.
No, please.
And I'm just so happy to be here talking to you. I'm so happy to be here listening to you, to
right?
Your voice.
Think about it, Heather. Like I was saying, we initially, like I have this down here, we were supposed to do this Sunday, December 18th of 2022.
I know.
So that's over 6 months ago, which you have waited patiently for me to get my voice back. and I have waited patiently just to be able to hold these shows again. But again, like I alluded to, I'm gonna share how much you helped me throughout the journey. But I'm so blessed to be seeing your face again and speaking with you. So thank you. How was everything briefly? Everything well?
Yeah, everything's good, thank you. I'm so happy that, this is happening at exactly the right time because, you've been through so much in these last 6 months, and I knew this was going to happen. I had no doubt it was going to happen when the time was right. So I was just like, well, if it takes 6 months, a year, we'll see. But interestingly, that was, you kind of put it off for health reasons, but my health was really bad then as well, and it's much better now. So
that's awesome.
It's very, very, very good. And I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful, my dear. Well, listen, as I like to start off with my guests, please feel free to share with us and my listeners, anything, to any degree that you want to share about your background, what actually led you to where you are today, or what led you to Heal and Shine and the concept behind it. So, give us some Heather Deane 101. Let's hear it.
Okay, let's go. So what started Heal and Shine? Well, Heal and Shine was originally just an Instagram page. That was kind of the first thing that I did. And the reason I did that was because, kind of rewind a little bit, I was with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and I lost my work during that time, and I was going through a very, very difficult time, and I was experiencing early 2020, like really quite severe anxiety and depression. And in the hope of that maybe it would help with those, symptoms, in even the tiniest way, I began meditating every day. So I started meditating on Insight Timer, which is the app that I'm now a teacher on. And within like a week, I started to feel a little bit better. Within a month, even better. And really, like, my mental health just continued to improve until didn't take actually that long to get to the stage where my mental health had never been better. Within sort of 3 months of meditating every day, I had got to a place where I was like, well, actually, I've never been this happy. And what came along with that, through this sitting just in stillness and just allowing whatever was coming up to come up. And I was actually receiving these downloads. So I identify as clairaudient. That means like I hear.
You hear.
Messages from spirit, from universe, like the divine God, whatever you choose to call this higher power, collective consciousness, maybe just. But I receive information, and very often it's in thought form. But once I did actually hear very clearly, like a voice. And that was really terrifying, actually, because we associate hearing voices with like being crazy. And so that was a very, for a little while, until I found other people who were like me. That was quite a frightening time. So I was like, what about this? How am I going to tell people that like I'm hearing voices from people who are not there? But I started looking into like psychics and mediums and just following my intuition, and found one or two people who I trusted, who were having similar experiences but had a lot more experience, and they were incredibly reassuring. They were like, don't worry, it's because you've been meditating, this is normal, you don't need to be scared, you can trust that. Because the feelings that came with that experience were very feelings of like incredible elation, connectedness, joy. I felt very comforted. It wasn't at all, the moment itself of hearing the voice was not scary.
And it was the first time that you ever heard voices like this, right, Heather? Like
the first time,
childhood and teen years, you never experienced any of this?
I always felt like I always received, although I didn't really know what was happening as a teenager. I received, things that I would write down. Like I've always been a writer, and sometimes I was daydreaming in the garden, and I had paper, and I was trying to do my homework, and I was like doodling And like I'd write a poem and I was like, wow, like I kind of, this didn't come out of my conscious mind, you know? So I kind of knew that there was something weird going on, but I didn't understand what it was. I wasn't familiar at the age of like 16 with the idea of being clairaudient. It didn't worry me because there again, I had these very, you know, happy, safe feelings. But anyway, so after meditating for several months, I was getting all these downloads and I was writing them down because I was like, this stuff's really good. You know, it was like spiritual wisdom. And I kind of just really felt like I'm not supposed to just keep this to myself. You know, I don't believe that I'm not like meant to be sharing this in some capacity. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start posting it on social media.
Good for you.
And I was like, if nobody sees it, like it doesn't matter. If one person sees it and it helps them, then that's already worth it, you know? And so, yeah, just very gradually, like, I mean, when I had like 50 followers, I was over the moon. I was like, wow, you know, some people are connecting with this. And people said like, this is really helping me on my healing journey. I had like people who were, you know, recovering from alcoholism or drug addiction, and they'd like DM me and say, wow, your stuff's really helping me. And I was like, well, I'm going to carry on then, you know, because that's
absolutely.
So yeah, these messages that I was receiving, I'd like post them on social media. And as my journey continued, I moved like from meditation. I was really passionate about helping other people. And so like being a meditation teacher was one goal, but I also, you know, I love the idea of hypnotherapy and hypnosis because it's very similar in terms of what's happening in the brain. When you're in deep meditation or hypnosis, it's the same. You're in a deep theta brain state, very inwardly focused, and you can get these insights and access your subconscious mind. And so I was drawn to hypnosis and to hypnotherapy, and that's where I found Marissa Peer and rapid transformational therapy. And I was like, this is amazing, because it's not just hypnotherapy. Like hypnotherapy is one thing, and what we do with RTT is a whole mixture of different modalities. You know, it's elements of cognitive behavioral therapy, it's elements of psychotherapy, it's elements of neuro-linguistic programming. And she has kind of brought all this together, like, you know, through the, I don't know whether it's 30 or 40 years of her personal experience. And she's developed this healing modality, which is incredible. It really helped me. So I found RTT and I had a session that transformed my life, you know, that went above and beyond my kind of expectations, you know, and to do with like past trauma. And so I was like, this is, you know, this can help people in such a phenomenal way with things like chronic illness. So for anybody listening who, you know, who doesn't know, like I was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis in May 2021, so 2 years ago. So I went through this whole journey of like meditation, hypnosis, and healing my mental health issues. And then I was diagnosed with, you know, a serious physical health issue, which meditation and hypnosis helps me with immensely. I'm still very much in that journey. You know, I haven't come out the other side, because I'm still learning so much through it. You know, I'm still having like major breakthroughs. Had another one this week. So I think as long as I'm learning important things from this illness, it's not going to go away. But I do believe that at some point I'll come to the end of what it has to teach me, and then I won't need it anymore. I don't need it anymore, but I am still learning things from it. So I'm grateful for the lessons, and I'll be like, well, you know, it's going to be over when it's over. But yeah, so RTT allows us to help with these, you know, chronic illnesses, life-threatening illnesses like stage 4 cancer, and you know, some severe kind of mental health issues as well, like PTSD, complex PTSD. So I'm very passionate about that. And so yeah, Heal and Shine then became like the name of kind of the website, the company, that I'm working from as a therapist.
That's wonderful. And here's the first thing that I like notice what you said, because it's been a commonality of my guests throughout the years. So many have said, Heather, that they found what their either calling was, or what their passion or inspiration is leading them to, happened during the pandemic. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny how something that shut down the world in so many ways opened us up in so many other ways, right?
It did. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like it was. I am grateful for my own personal journey through the pandemic. Like, you know, it enabled me, like, you know, to grow into who I was always meant to be in ways that I just wouldn't have done if it hadn't been for the pandemic. I'd still be, you know, working in international events, and that was not what I was ever meant to be doing. You know, that
No.
like I had other things that I wanted to do, that I believe, you know, I came here like this was part of my plan. I wanted to help people. I wanted to work in meditation and hypnosis, and had it not been for the pandemic, I'd still be, you know, working in events. So yeah, I mean, like the pandemic was this kind of global collective trauma that we went through, and we know that trauma always opens doors for possibilities of.
And what do we say all the time, right? Yeah, it's from the darkness that will always lead us into you know, into the light. You know, like I said, there were so many of my guests who have shared similar stories of how they grew from the pandemic. Me personally, like when I was here in lockdown, I like wrote my second book about oneness through it. I was inspired by the fear that gripped us all. And I sensed it, and I was like, all right, now how am I going to get out of this? Because I'm feeling it now. I stopped watching the news immediately. But I was able to find my way out of it. And then I was like, this similar to what you said. It's like, all right, it helped me, but it's supposed to help everyone. So I just started writing. I started, and then before I had a chapter, 2 chapters, 5 chapters, 10 chapters, 15 chapters. I wrote for 6 solid months because I was out of work. Everything was locked down. So I was here in my office for like 6 months and just writing and writing and writing. But it was a beautiful experience. Again, it just gives me a level of, you know, gratification knowing that we can find such light from a dark place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. It's beautiful.
It gives us a lot of hope, you know, so we can see, like, you know, some people go through the most difficult times and they struggle, and yeah, you know, terrible things happen, but healing happens as well, you know. Healing, growth happens, and
your moniker too is not just healing. You say heal and shine. So let's get us back to that place. Let's get us back to our core, because we come from wellness. So our spirit and our being is nothing but wellness. So we heal, get ourselves back to that. But then we're able, because we're healed now, we're able to continue to shine.
Exactly.
As you know that we're meant to, right?
That light with others. That's
heal
the
and
idea.
shine.
Yeah. Share our inner light and our gifts. Like, we all have these unique gifts, you know, that we come here with. And so it's about, as you say, remembering that we're whole, and like reconnecting with who we really are on a soul level. And then, yeah, being able to live joyfully and help others to do so as well.
Yeah.
I think it just happens naturally when you get to that place where you're like, oh, hello, inner peace.
Yeah. And again, in the ways that you convey your message, that was what first attracted me to you and Heal and Shine. You love to have fun with this stuff. And friends out there watching and listening to this, please, you got to go to Heather's sites to totally understand like what I'm talking about, because I will be sharing all the info here, so you'll know exactly where to go. But Heather is funny, again, lighthearted, and she makes up these skits that I just start laughing, man. It's just so unique. But how did you like, was that always a part of you, Heather, to be, you know, comical?
It's something, it's like, it's something, it's who I am, definitely. And I was like that as a kid. Like when I was sort of like 5 years old, I loved making people laugh. But it got me into trouble when I was little, like at school, it got me into trouble a couple of times, like pretty big trouble.
Really?
And so it was something that I pushed down and moved away from. I was like, okay, well, if you go around being silly, making everyone laugh, you're going to get into trouble. So you better not do that. So little 5-year-old Heather's like, okay, got to stop doing this, got to stop being funny. And so, yeah, it's something that I kind of came back to. I was like, oh, actually, I love making people laugh. It's just, I love doing that. So yeah, I have fun making those little sketches for Instagram. And I just think, it does us all good to get a bit more lighthearted about all this stuff.
Absolutely.
It can be
Absolutely.
really heavy, this spirituality thing.
Hey, and I just say, look at it this way, Heather, because what it's doing is allowing you yet another venue for you to get your message out there, because you can also use your comedic skills, which are wonderful, but it's just something else that may attract somebody else to say, wow, she's funny, I'm going to follow this girl. Like with me personally, I use my music in my songs as well too,
Yeah.
which I always viewed and I've always known is another opportunity for me to potentially meet or inspire someone else who may hear a song of mine and say, hey, I like the message that this oneness guy is like saying in this song. And again, getting back to your point, you might come across somebody who just loves the fact that you have a comedic side to yourself and just be drawn to it because of that. But again, I know I don't care how people find my message. I just want them to find it. And I'm sure it's the same with you. So
Absolutely.
Bravo to you for having yet another way to, to actually reach people, because it's wonderful. Like I want to get back now to RTT and hypnotherapy in general, because I want people to know how it personally helps me. So I'm going to share, Heather, how you helped me initially, and then I want you to expand upon it if you'd be so kind. But for everyone who knows, I've been dealing with stage 4 throat cancer that actually has spread actually to my bones as well too. And just prior to taking treatments, which started in this past January, I was reaching out to Heather to set up what was going to be this first podcast. So prior to that, Heather volunteered her services for me to like help me with hypnosis, and I've never experienced it before, so I was all on board. And so we set up a time and a date just like this on a Zoom call, and Heather performed her magic, as I'd like to say, on me through a session. But it wasn't just a session, my friends, though. She actually recorded the session as well too, knowing full-hearted that this could help me going forward, because she sent me the file afterwards that I was able to listen to daily as I was going through my treatments. So Heather's going to go through the details of the specifics of the session. But like what I want to say is to have a personalized recorded message of a hypnosis session that where, my guide through the session, which was Heather, spoke to me directly, spoke about everything that I'm going through, spoke about my cancer, spoke about my spirituality, spoke about my higher awareness, spoke about my strength as a divine being and how I'm divinely guided. And to have that ringing in my ears on a daily basis every night as I'm going to say the word suffering, because it was, and if anyone out there has gone through any kind of cancer treatments, the word is suffering. but to be able to listen to her words directly to me every single night for months on end literally saved my life, because I kept hearing, Danny, 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 I'm not the cancer. Danny, you're not the cancer. Danny, you're more than this. And on and on and on and on and on. And those affirmations to me were just, I can't put words together to express my gratitude for Heather, which is why I've been saying on my post recently that, I always say one thing to people who reach out to me. I say, I have no words, just love. And that is so the truth for you, my dear. But again, to have, please, man, it's all you. You are an angel. But to have your words ringing in my earbuds every single night, day after day after day, and just hear you talking to me directly, literally saved my life. So, I'd like you to just go into detail about that like process, and how you can help other people in that same fashion, Heather.
First of all, just, thank you for those words. Like, it means the world to me to have had the opportunity to help you in that way. Like, I'm so grateful that, our paths crossed, and that I was there at that time. And I truly believe that was, some divine intervention, and that I was always meant to be like on your healing team.
You are. You're a captain up there, my friend. Are you kidding?
I'm so grateful. And thank God that, that we met and I was able to help you in that way. But, we said this earlier, but all healing is self-healing. And I just do want to say that again, because, you got yourself through this, and it's great that, like, what I was able to do for you helped. But I think it's really important that people know that, like, if I got through this, immense life crisis, difficulty, illness, whatever it may be, you did it, like, it's empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And just the recording that I made you, just, I don't know if you know this, but that is just something that we do as standard. That is part of RTT. It's not part of, like, standard hypnotherapy, but with rapid transformational therapy, we make a recording for the client, because that repetition, and we ask you to listen to that every day for at least 3 weeks. And some people listen to it for longer. When I did my first RTT session that I said was really, transformational, I listened every day for 3 weeks, and then I just carried on because I was enjoying it so much.
That's exactly what I did as well. For months, I'm still listening to it. It's 6 months later.
And maybe you won't listen every day, but maybe, you'll come back once a week, or maybe you won't listen to it for a couple of months, and you'll be like, oh, that's going to do me good. But we make that recording because the repetition is what wires in the changes. So we do the session itself that usually lasts about an hour and a half. And that is where I lead the person into this deeply relaxed state of hypnosis. And from there, we use different kind of tools from the RTT toolbox. So one of them might be like kind of inner child healing. We do regression back to scenes from childhood or possibly like early adult life. And we see what's there, and we get to the root cause of whatever is presenting itself today, whether that be like depression or cancer or MS, whatever, phobia, whatever it is. Yeah, and your subconscious mind is able to tell us, once you're in hypnosis, you have access to everything you've ever experienced, and you have, you will know on a deep level what is causing this. And people go back to scenes, and like, it happens that people go back to scenes even when they're in the womb. I haven't had that. I've had somebody go back to a scene where as a newborn baby, like just been born. And that's incredible, because obviously you've got absolutely no conscious memory of that. So you go back to these scenes, and we we use the other tools, and you get this insight into why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. So that's like the awareness, that's level 1. And then the record is what wires in the changes through the repetition. So that's something that we always do, and it's really important. And if people aren't committed to listening to that recording every day, to be honest, it's not going to work, because they get the insight and they're going to have like those aha moments, and they might feel for a few days or a week or so like, oh, you know, I'm going to be okay now because I know what it's all about. But if you don't rewire the neural pathways, then eventually you're going to go back to old beliefs, old ways of being. So it's really important, that recording.
Our subconscious mind, as you know, it has to be programmed. I've been following Dr. Bruce Lipton recently, and he has this whole mantra about how the subconscious mind was programmed in our first 7 years of life, that everything that we continue to live upon, all of our values and ideals, right, are based on what we programmed in our first 7 years of life. Now, that's amazing.
It's incredible. Right? And it's
but
so
we have the opportunity, because of what you said, of the repetition, to reprogram ourselves. And that's why, folks, it is so important, like what Heather said, when you get this recording, you have to listen to it. We're creatures of habit. Make it a habit every day at a certain time. That's exactly what I did. Every night, put on the earphones. And her message and her words, which, like she just said, is my own message, because I'm self-healing, became programmed in my subconscious. But that's the message there. You gotta, do this.
Yeah. And so we, as you say, we reprogram the mind and we create new beliefs, new empowering beliefs that are going to support us, because a belief is just a thought that you've been thinking. So, you've got these programs that you kind of downloaded from the people around you until the age of 7, when your brain is always in a theta brain state. Children's minds are always in a theta brain state. And that's why they have such vivid imaginations. That's why you can give them a rope and tell them it's a snake and they can play with it. Like they're in hypnosis. It's very similar. So the thoughts that we have again and again and again become our beliefs. And so we have to kind of create those new beliefs via, having the same thought again and again. So RTT is a really powerful way of doing that. Very, really effective.
Yeah, but it was such a fantastic experience. And it is such a gift that you offer. So friends out there listening, please, if it's not yourself, if you know of anyone who could benefit from this service, especially if you're new to hypnosis to any degree, like I was, Heather had me digging deep into fears when I was a young child. Heather, why don't you explain, why was that so important for me to, was it part of a transgression or like a regression? What's the word?
Regression. Yeah, that's one thing that you went back to. But do you want me to share what came up, or for you personally?
Well, I remember, because it was all about my fears of dying.
Yeah, it was about fear of death. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what came up for you. And so that we knew that was what the cancer was all about. It was about you facing this biggest fear that you'd had and sort of looking at it head on and overcoming it. The only reason you ever had the cancer was to overcome it. That's all it was ever about for you. But that's why it's so important to do an individual session, because sometimes I heard this somebody on Instagram not long ago and saying, people who have cancer are angry, they have resentment. That makes me really mad, because it's not true. It's just not true that everybody has a different path, and you can't say that everybody with cancer or everybody with MS or everybody has their own journey and their own lessons to take from this, their own reasons that they got this illness, and you just cannot make sweeping statements. Like in your case, there was no unexpressed anger or resentment. And very often, and this was the first thing, I said when we kind of had the consultation before the session was, we talked about your expression, because throat issues are very often to do with self-expression. And I had a thyroid problem that was diagnosed over 20 years ago now. Have an underactive thyroid, and that was all to do with me not expressing myself. And certainly I didn't used to be able to, now I'm speaking very clearly, but I used to really struggle to speak at all, But when like that didn't fit with you because you're a singer, like you record podcasts, like it didn't fit. So
And that was the irony to me too, Heather. Like, I never smoked cigarettes.
Yeah, as well.
And for someone, I teach during the day, like you said, I sing at night. I have a podcast, you know what I mean? And everything is centered around me speaking. But yet I got throat cancer, something that could severely limit that or potentially take it away forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like the irony just blows me away sometimes about like what happens in life to us.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, I know that it was stemmed from my fears as a child. But your service got me to go there.
Yeah. And you no longer had those fears because you're deeply spiritual, you know that when you die.
And I haven't had those fears, Heather, for decades.
I know.
But it's like what you say. They lay within us.
Yeah. There was a little Danny inside of you who was still scared.
Yeah.
You had to get to him and help him,
That little oneness dude.
Yeah, that little oneness dude with all this potential in him that was going to become this amazing oneness guy. But he still had this fear of death, so we had to go and talk to him and make sure he knew that he was safe and that he was going to be okay,
But it's so good, just like to have my angels, like I say, you, my immediate team of my blessed wife, Andrea, my brother, Frankie, I told you about, trained me throughout the whole ordeal. Obviously, my sisters, Angela, Michaela, and my dad, who we still have with us, and then all my extended family and friends, and so many cousins. The love that poured to me throughout this whole ordeal is endless, and I can never thank. That's why I said, you know what? I started out, and that's still my mantra. I have no words, just love. I have no words, just love. Because that's all I can say. But
well, you are very much someone who's surrounded by love, and just I think it's important to say. So I kind of say that I'm a spiritual therapist, but that is very much who I am. That's not really RTT, like rapid transformational therapy. There's nothing spiritual about that really in the training or anything. That's just kind of what I bring to it, the way I do it. And so I'm like very much asking for guidance, like during the session and even before the session. So like, I'm setting the intention that I'm an open channel and that any information that needs to come through me will come through me.
Yeah.
So that you get the words in the recording that you need to hear, so that whatever needs to come up in the session comes up. And that's like an important part of what I do personally, and I knew that you were going to be okay. I knew that you were going to get through that because I connected with your mum.
I remember that because she always comes shining through, my mom. She's such a
shining is the word, because she her energy was so strong and she blew me away, and I just felt all the love that she had for you, and it was incredible, and it moved me. I was sitting there doing the washing up, standing in the washing up, and just okay, thinking about our session, which was maybe a day or two to come. And I was like, well, if anything needs to come through, let it come through. And your mum came through and told me that you were going to be okay. And that message was immensely important, because if I know that you are going to get through this, then I can convey it to you, That gives me, I am able to make you a recording saying, Danny, you get through this. This is not the end for you, because I know that. And so
you're like words, especially when you said, Danny, the only reason why you got cancer is to overcome it.
Yeah.
And that sentence, especially, was just, I'm not always, again, to overcome it. I'm going to get beyond it, which I have been, and I am, and I knock wood, and I just give thanks and blessings as I continue to heal. It's awesome. But again, thank you. That was such a wonderful treat, but it's such a great service, my friends. So please, again, I'll be sharing all of Heather's information on how you can reach her and follow her. But I would like to just jump ship slightly, because I know how important mental health is to you, and especially mental health awareness. So I would love to tap into your beautiful mind about what you feel about mental health, how you feel that we are as a society moving forward, if it's being addressed right, if it's being addressed at all. What do you want to share about mental health?
I think the main thing I want to share about it is just that I think there is still so much stigma around mental health, and I just think that people don't share enough about their mental health struggles, so that when you're going through it, you feel like you're the only one, and that makes it so much worse. And I just think it's so incredibly important for those of us like myself who have struggled with mental health in the past and got through it and got to a place where I can genuinely say, like, I'm happy, I'm peaceful, I feel good. I mean, everybody has difficult days. Yeah, I'm not saying that like I'm happy all the time.
Yeah,
like
of course.
Baseline is content and peaceful, and that was never my experience before. Until I got to 40, and started meditating every day. So I think it's just really important, so that anybody who's experiencing like anxiety or depression or other mental health issues, they're aware that it's possible. It gives people hope, because otherwise they just feel like they're in it by themselves, and maybe they're never going to get through it. That's what I thought. I was just like, well, this is the way I am. This is the way I'm always going to be. I didn't really have any, I didn't really have any kind of hope or awareness even that it could be different. So yeah, I think just talking, sharing, asking like friends if they're okay, being there to listen. It's just, having that presence and making people aware that you are there for them if they want to share anything.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't, but you say, well, look, I've been through difficult times as well. And like, I know how hard it can be. I know how lonely it can feel sometimes, and you're not alone, and you don't have to do this by yourself, and you can ask for help, and please do ask for help if you're struggling.
Absolutely. And is there a way that RTT or hypnosis in general could help someone who's just struggling with total mental awareness, or
yeah, absolutely,
mental health, I should say?
Yeah, we have really phenomenal results with like many mental health issues, but I think like the biggest one that we're experiencing in these times, and it's got so much worse since the pandemic, is anxiety. So many people are struggling with anxiety these days.
Yeah.
Because we all experience this intense fear with the pandemic, suddenly
it's like we were talking about.
Yeah, like, oh my God, like, I'm not safe here anymore. And maybe a lot of us who are lucky enough to grow up in countries where we didn't have wars going on, and we have access to, to good medical systems, for the most part, probably most of us felt pretty safe. And suddenly like, oh, here's this thing that is threatening my safety here. And so that it caused a lot of anxiety, and it certainly added to my anxiety. And as you said, like, you stopped watching the news. I didn't stop watching the news. I watched the news for far too long. It was like on all the time, and I just kind of spiraled into more and more anxiety. And because of the ways our brains work, we can kind of get stuck, like our brains can kind of get stuck in that. So even now things are so much better, and we are hopefully feeling safer, you can still be kind of stuck in an anxious state of mind. Yeah. So yeah, RTT can absolutely help with that. And there are always reasons behind experiencing anxiety. So it's just like, a physical health issue. Like, we're going to get to the root cause. So we get to the root cause of the anxiety, because people say, I'm anxious. Okay, first of all, please don't say I'm anxious, because anything that starts with I am is an affirmation. You don't want to affirm that you're anxious. You
Yeah,
are
you don't want to affirm that. Yeah.
no, you really don't. Like, you want to validate the fact that you're experiencing it. So yeah, I am feeling anxious, I'm experiencing this, but you are not the anxiety. So please, anybody listening, please don't say I'm anxious. Please say I'm feeling anxious. Or maybe I often feel anxious.
Just don't make that affirmation, like you said. But
yeah, that is who you are. Same with depressed. I'm depressed, well, you're feeling depressed. You are not the depression. And people know that they're not the depression. They know that they're not the anxiety on a conscious level, but the subconscious is always listening, and they're like, oh, this is who we are, and it just kind of, it can make it chronic.
I think, Heather, what's very, very sad about it too, and I believe wholeheartedly the reason why it's so prevalent in today's society is because there's a direct correlation, like you said, about just you can pick out that one example of the pandemic again, but today's society is just how it's wired. It's almost steering you towards a mental health issue to some degree, at least. Maybe some are up here, maybe some are down here, but everyone's related. Like I was saying, I had the fear. I was sensing the fear of everybody. You sensed it, like in your own way, and then you found meditation. But it's definitely a correlation, right, to today's society. Because I was born in 1961, so I'm a child of the 60s and the 70s. I'd even go as far as to say the 80s. We didn't have all of this back then. We didn't have, there was really no such thing as, even stuff like autism, ADHD, like all of these subcategories of mental health.
We didn't have the labels for them in any
Did not have the labels.
I don't know how much those labels serve us. I don't think they always serve us, having all these labels. It's like, well, we're different. Our brains are all different.
Yeah. But that's my point, that it's sad for the fact that we here now today as residents of this planet are forced to deal with it more. So unless you have a strong sense of being to be able to get yourself through it from an emotional and like a spiritual foundation, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Well, we do have more and more stress. The life we live in today in our modern society is more and more stressful, because there's more and more demands on our attention and on our time, and it's normal to feel stressed, sadly,
Yeah.
But just going back to the anxiety, there are reasons we experience anxiety, and we cause, like, it's rooted in traumatic experiences that led to you not feeling safe in the world. Like, anxiety is always, I don't feel safe. So we can find out why you don't feel safe here. And once we address that and rewire the brain, then the anxiety is no longer there. I don't have anxiety anymore at all, Not to say I don't ever experience fear or I don't ever experience stress, but it's not chronic by any means. It's not every day. It's not for no reason. It's not I wake up and I feel, and I feel anxious, which I used to.
Yeah. I always like to add into that conversation, although people sometimes don't want to hear it, but it's the truth, and something that I learned from my guru, Dr. Wayne Dyer, probably 40 odd years ago, is he used the, like when you would hear people talk about an anxiety attack, and he would really break it down to its core, and he would say, there's no such thing as an anxiety attack. He goes, you can't go to Walmart and buy anxiety. There's no such thing as anxiety. What we're doing is we're having anxious thoughts. All right. So anxious thoughts definitely could lead to the mind spinning and spinning and spinning. And then when this starts to spin, what happens? Maybe you're short of breath. So yes, it can lead to a physicality, but make no mistake about it. It's controlled by what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's our mind, 100%.
If we can control those thoughts, if we can squash or limit those anxious thoughts, that's a way to get beyond an anxiety attack, is to stop your thoughts that are leading to it. You know, people don't want to think that I'm in control of that. I had an anxiety attack, you know, where in our reality, you can affect that completely, because there's no such thing as anxiety. We only have anxious thoughts. And when that's, you know, like when I heard that, like I said, decades ago, man, it stuck with me. And like I said, a lot of people still don't want to hear it.
Some people don't want to hear it, and yet actually it's empowering, because if you're creating that experience with your mind, that means you can uncreate it. You know, you can have an experience that is easier for you as well. And it's going to take some, it's going to take some work. It's going to take maybe some time, but it's possible.
It's the truth. But so my friend, listen, it's usually about this time of my episodes where I like to ask a question to my guests, something that I didn't tell you about in our previous discussions.
Surprise.
Because it's something that I like to kind of spring on my guests. It's nothing difficult. It's very simple, but I want to ask you a question, and I would like to hear your response in as few or as many words as you would grace me and my listeners with. Okay?
Okay.
Simple
I'm a bit
question.
now.
Because I am that oneness guy, right? So the question is this, Heather. Why oneness?
Why oneness? For me, because we all come from the same source. You know, we are all one. And what I love is the way spirituality and science is now coming together.
Yeah.
So this, like, quantum physics is now saying the same things that we've been saying in spirituality.
Yeah.
You know, one, we're all connected, we're all from the same source. And now quantum physics, where we have like quantum entanglement, you know, we're all energy, and it's the same message. So
Yep.
I absolutely love that. You know, I think this is a really exciting time to be alive, where like science
It is
mirroring spirituality. So yeah, we're all quantumly entangled. We're all the same energy. We're all one, and we're
It's
all
beautiful. And I love your point about tying in science to it too, because like in the past, that was always the argument. Well, show me the science of it. And now you have so many brilliant minds out there, and, you know, like spiritualists like Deepak Chopra, and then you have doctors like Dr. Joe Dispenza, you know, who just see the science and break it down from our brain waves to everything, you know, quantum physics. When you look at a rock and break it down to its core, it's you know, what's there? It's nothing. It's energy.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's obviously everything that we are. That rock just moves a little slower than we do. And spiritually gifted people were able to raise their vibrations and move that much faster than maybe you and I. But it's all about energy, and it all breaks down. When you look at it, it's that empty space. It's nothing. That's beautiful. But listen, thank you so much for sharing that. It was a beautiful answer. And again, there is no right or wrong, but I just love when I hear people's individual takes on it. And honestly, they're all kind of similar, Heather. Everyone's pretty much the same thing. Not meaning that, you know, hey, because everyone that I have on this show as a guest has a, you know, like a spiritual foundation to their existence. So they all know what oneness is, and they all know and agree with that. We emanate from that one source. Again, the question is not what you call that source. You can call it God. You can call it that rock I was just talking about. You know what I mean? It's just knowing that we come from that one source. That's the
spirit.
That's the gift. But beautiful. And thank you for that. So listen, before we wrap things up, I want you to share with my listeners how is the best way that we can stay in touch with all things Heather Deane and all things Heal and Shine?
Okay, so Heal and Shine, you can go to my website if you want to contact me, if you're interested in having an RTT session. So the website is www.healandshine, so that's HEL, just the letter N, shine.com. I'm active on Instagram, and that is the same. My page name is Heal and Shine, written the same way. So you can come there if you want me to try to make you laugh with my little spiritual sketches and
you do
channeled messages. And and I have guided meditations completely free of charge. There are things to help with sleep, but there are chakra balancing meditations, just very basic short mindfulness meditations, and those are on Insight Timer, and you just follow Heather Deane, and you have access to all those. And I occasionally do some live events on that platform as well.
Wonderful. And again, for all my friends who know, I will be sharing all that information on the description page of this podcast, and also here, along as you see on this YouTube version of this podcast as well too. So for my friends out there, thank you again for listening to the podcast I call That Oneness Guy. For staying with me through all these months here. Actually, it's been like 7 months since my last live podcast, if you want to call it that. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for tuning in, as always, as I continue to share my message of oneness, and along with the spiritual gifts and insight that my many guests are so kind to share. This has been episode number 54, an interview with spiritual therapist Heather Deane of Heal and Shine. So until next time, my friends, my name is Danny Rongo. Again, you know me as That Oneness Guy. Again, I can't send enough thanks for hanging in there with me. So please look forward to my next show. I know that, as always, I send you peace, love, light, and continued oneness. And to my dear friend out there, Heather, you're an angel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Danny.
Stay well, my friends. Namaste.
The words that will comfort me, I am.
I thank you again for listening to That Oneness Guy podcast. Please take a moment to subscribe to this feed wherever you may be listening to or watching this podcast. And please look me up and follow me on social media. You can find That Oneness Guy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search for That Oneness Guy. And finally, to stay in touch with all things oneness, my books, and performances, please visit my websites, thatonenessguy.com and dannyrongo.com. In closing, remember this: oneness is not a religion. You can call it a spirituality, but it is more than that. It is a truth and a knowing. The knowing that we emanate from one source. Just like branches on any one tree, we are individualized expressions of that source. This is the truth of our race, the human race.
I am one of many who have come to sing their song.